G'day guys, you're back with Miracle Max. Today we're looking at a Volkswagen Amarok 2013 model with some intermittent power window issues. So let's check it out together. The other day when this vehicle came in for the diagnosis, I forgot to record it, so I'll give you guys a bit of a catch-up. The customer complaint was the right-hand rear power window did not go up or down. Now they've got kids in the back and sometimes they like to fiddle with things, and so I figured, well, perhaps they've just forgotten to put the power window lock off, but that wasn't the case. Let me show you how I diagnosed the problem. As I mentioned, you've got to make sure that this little child window lock is turned off so there is power at the windows. I also checked the master switch operation, this bloke over here, to make sure that this was okay, and the window would not work from this switch. The master switch will supply power to the individual switches back at the door, so if this guy isn't working, then that guy can't do his job. Next thing we need to do is operate this switch up and down and see if it's working. In this case it wasn't working. I need to pop out the switch and make sure that it's getting power to the switch and then through the switch down to the power window motor. So this system here uses a single power and two earth wires to reverse the polarity of the motor. Now all we have to do is put our test light, our little alligator clip on the earth one there, and this fella here, and you can see the light comes on, and of course now the window's working. Wasn't last time. Intermittent fault, of course, that goes down, and if we want to change the polarity, we simply change that wire over to this one here, and now we can change the position of our power window as we can go up, and that should in fact light, and it'll turn off when we turn it off. So I know the switch is operating okay, so what's next on our list? Keep in mind that at this point in time I still had no power window working, and I checked for power across these main cables here and that was fine. So after removing my main connector here, I checked for continuity between these two main power wires here down in there, and I had no continuity, which means that the wiring through here or the brush contact or whatever was not working. At this point I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, it could be poor brush contact, so I gave the motor a bit of a heave-ho there, and sure enough the motor came back to life. Poor brush contact. Do I leave it at that? Well no, I advised the customer that it might need another motor, simply because if I can hit it with a hammer, surely if it goes over a bump at some stage it might not work once again. So I've got his approval, and that's what we're doing here today. We're actually replacing the motor on this fella. I ended up going genuine. It was the only one that I could seem to find, but in actual fact it's made in France. So yeah, genuine article there guys. Wasn't cheap, but it was the only one that I could actually find. So installation wise it seems fairly simple. 1, 2, 3 down the bottom there, and you know, it should mesh in okay. It doesn't look like there's any stop start areas on the regulator, but we may have to reinitialize the motor itself. I'm not sure about that. I'll drag out the scan tool later on and have a look at that. And the external gear of the motor meshes in with an internal gear on the regulator itself. And as usual, I like to figure out why it's failed. So I'm going to pull off the field housing. This will be a permanent magnet style here, and hopefully I don't lose the armature as well. Might sneak in a screwdriver and just see if I can retain that armature there. Come on Max, you can do it. Just like that. Okay, so let's have a look inside there and see what's happened. So if you have a close look in there, you can see that there is the brushes. I might just pop this out, it's not going to matter anyway. That comes out there. The brushes is what's catching at the moment. I might try and get them back a little bit. Okay, so I've managed to push the brushes back. Let's slide out our little armature there with our gearing on it. Quite a complex little fella inside there. You can see on the armature itself, or on the commutator, actually there's quite a few little heat marks on there. Can you see that? It's all little different colours. I'm not sure if that was the welding taking place when they did that, but the brushes certainly don't look like they've had too much contact, do they? Maybe that was part of the issue, I'm not sure. And the brushes themselves are actually quite short, aren't they? There's not much meat on them. If you have a look at the brush over this side, it's actually got a bit of a weird shape attached to it, hasn't it? It's sort of flat at the top, then it's got a groove out the bottom. So whether it wasn't sitting properly against the armature or not, I'm not quite sure. That one looks a little bit better. But as soon as I tapped it, away she went. The only other thing it could be is a bit of the circuitry up the top here. Might have a dry solder joint on it. I don't know. I believe that it would be more the brushes against the commutator. But anyway, the new one's going in, and that's solving that issue, so we won't have that problem again. If we just tap this and, you know, assume that it's okay, we could put it back in, and the customer, you know, a week or two down the track might have the same issue. So new one has been fitted. As you can see, I've got it all back together, but there's one thing that I must do, and that is the one-touch system. What is the one-touch system? Well, that's when you press the button and the power window motor will go up and down all by itself until it completes its cycle. This one has not. So if I press my button, let's have a look. But the front one, of course, no hands, goes up and down at a single touch. That's called the one-touch system. So that's what we need to program into the back one before we can call it complete. Really not that difficult to do. All we do is we go to our master switch, and this is the right hand rear, and we pull it into the up position and hold it. Goes up all the way. Listen. And it should click, and then that should be done. So let's see if that works. There it goes. Oops, other way, clown. So just to prove that, one touch, no hands. One touch, done. And that's all you got to do. A fairly simple diagnosis, you'd agree, with that power window, right hand rear intermittent fault. Yes, I could have just relied on the old bang trick to get it up and running and told the customer, she'll be right mate, but you've got to be sure that you've completed the repair. It's not going to come back on you. So new part went in, and I have reinitialized that one-touch system as well. So it's ready to go back to the customer now. I hope you guys have got something from this video today, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, feel free to comment down below. That notification bell, don't forget about it. You don't want to miss any future videos. So guys, until next time, this is Miracle Mac signing off. I will catch you later.